Well, welcome to our friends around the world. We are so excited to be together today and talk about around the world.
Our guests know about around the world.
Know about countries all over the world and blessing people and doing so much good. And wow, this is such an exciting time. These are our two great new heroes that we just honor and respect and appreciate so much. And let's tell you a little about them.
Yeah, these are two hardworking men with hearts of gold, and they have something to share today that is so exciting. So welcome, John Pearce and Eric Engebretsen.
John can wave. That was John. That's Eric.
Thanks for having us. Thank you guys so much. It's so fun to be on the show that you guys have put together.
Oh, wow. Well, we're excited to chat. So John studied economics and strategy at BYU and served a mission in Trujillo, Peru. Did I say that right?
Trujillo, but you got it pretty good.
Trujillo, close enough. He and his wife, Megan, have 2 children. And Eric studied entrepreneurship at BYU and served a mission in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And he and his wife, Morgan, have 4 children, and they reside in Salt Lake City. And today we're going to learn about how these two got together. So maybe, Eric, why don't you start? What brought the two of you together, and how did you brainstorm this amazing idea? And just tell us what your company is and what they do.
We'd be happy.
You do.
Sounds great. Thanks again, guys. So John and I actually grew up together as childhood friends. We grew up in the same ward here in Utah, which was a fun experience. And we talk about, the blessed time we had and the experiences we had together. But what really, I think, bonded us even more is we both ended up serving missions in Latin America, as you mentioned, in Peru and in Argentina, respectively. And so coming back from our missions, we both were honestly changed by that experience, spiritually and converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ and some of those sacred experiences, but also based on what we saw from our missions. And I think this is a shared experience that many return missionaries have. But for me, specifically in Argentina, I think the starting point was I was there 12 years ago is when I started my mission. Well, we're still here. I don't know. It looks like they might have dropped off.
No, we're here.
We're here.
I don't know why
we'll keep going. We'll take it over.
I'll just keep going.
We want to see you better.
Okay, there we go. Great. I was like, did we lose you? Okay, so I was in my mission in Argentina 12 years ago, and that was the start of a very bad hyperinflation spell that they've been on. And so what I saw there as a missionary firsthand was these amazing members that were educated and smart and so hardworking were struggling to make ends meet, right? We're struggling with the devaluation of their currency, the Argentine peso, and some of just the economic challenges that came with that. And so that's the experience that I came home that John and I bonded over, at least on my side, that I shared with him. And I'll let him share kind of his experience from his mission and then how that led into eventually what we're doing today.
Yeah. So in Trujillo, I had companions and church leaders and all kinds of people that were amazing. They had so much talent. They were so hardworking. They were so smart. And in the rural areas I was in, there just weren't that many opportunities. And so like Eric said, there's issues in Argentina, there's issues in Peru, and it made it really hard for somebody to be a church leader or to be to get married, to do all the things that we take for granted here in Utah, at least, or in Provo, or this part of the world, were really difficult things. And one day BYU Pathway came and they did a little fireside in Peru, but Pathway was brand new, and they came into my mission and they shared a little bit about the program, and I walked away being like, this is amazing. This is going to change the world to have more access to education and opportunity for these amazing church members that I grew to love in Trujillo.
Yeah. So those shared experiences and that common thread of like, there's these amazing people out there that are so deserving, so educated, so qualified. How do we help them? That sent us together as friends down this multi-year journey of trying to start a business and ideating and thinking of things that would help the people that we met on our missions and help church members generally around the world. And where that really kind of took off was in 2020 and early 2021. We realized, through the kind of consequences of the pandemic, everyone shifted to remote work, at least here in the US, right? We saw that firsthand. People were shifting to remote work. And that's where we kind of realized, hey, if we can help the people we met on our missions break into online careers and online jobs, we can help them overcome some of the economic or job scarcity or, currency devaluation challenges that we saw firsthand as missionaries. If we can bring them into the online economy, the global economy, where their income and their jobs are coming from the US, even though they physically will stay in their countries, we could help them have a higher earning potential and overcome some of those challenges and be able to, like John said, do the things that we knew we were going to do in our lives, like serve in any church calling, right? Any church calling we're given, we want to say yes to. And we've seen people that had to say no to that for financial reasons, right? Be able to get married and have kids and have a car and, do those things, that we knew would allow us to be disciples of Jesus Christ and like live the gospel. We wanted to bring those things so others could do that. And that's been at least the starting point. And I'll pause there since we've been going for a minute, but that's at least how we started and at least like a hint into what our business does.
Wow.
Can I just say how deeply touched we are by this? I mean, lots of people go on their missions and have experiences that help them feel greater capacity of empathy for people's needs. But to have the two of you come back and really do something so powerful to help those needs be met and to create this opportunity, lots of people find a need and then they give a hand out. And within a very brief time, the handout is dissipated. There's no more strength or help to them. But to give a hand up, to give a literal hand up to people that can lift them out of their condition. Sorry, it makes me very tearful because we've been also to Peru and traveled some in the Central and South America and lots of other places where we've seen the same thing. And you're just doing an amazing work. So tell us then how this company evolved and what you did to make it happen, this garage job that you started.
Well, I'll start and I'll have Eric.
I guess before John starts, I'll just say, Scott, where much is given, much is required. And so that's kind of you to say, but honestly, we feel like this is normal.
We wake up every morning and feel grateful that we feel God has allowed us to be part of this amazing work. And so, just to repeat what Eric said, is we feel grateful.
We're grateful too.
Like Eric mentioned, with COVID, we were both working remote, and so basically, we said, hey, we've got all these amazing. I was working at Pathway, and there was all these amazing Pathway students, and so we said, let's start with this group of Pathway graduates and friends from our missions.
Yep.
And let's go start talking to companies and see if they'll hire them, and let's deal with the operations in between them. And so we started, and one of the amazing, I think our first 3 placements were in Ghana, in Trujillo, and in Buenos Aires. So we hit our 2 missions and we hit Ghana.
It's amazing.
And I remember the placement we had in Ghana, my wife was sitting outside of the door and we announced to him like, hey, you've got this new job, and he doubled his income. I think more than doubled his income. And the Spirit hit me so strongly, where we had worked hard for this. This had been months of work, maybe years of ideating, things like that. And the Spirit hit so strongly and just confirmed, even if we only ever get 1 placement, it's totally worth it. And even if it's just this one guy, it's like we changed one, and our vision was higher to do it for more people, but we just got that 1 placement. My wife was sitting outside the door and she felt that same thing I felt, and it just inspired us to keep going. And I'll let Eric give more thoughts on the early days.
Yeah, there's, I think like John mentioned, one of the first people that we ended up, a lot of those early days were like figuring this out. Like, do companies even want this? How do we actually make this happen? But one of the first, Utah startups that we ended up, saying, hey, we've got these amazing individuals that we can add to your team, was a friend from my mission. His brother in Argentina is one of the first people that we hired for my mission. And same thing as what John mentioned, is like, this guy had a decent job, but he was commuting long hours. And honestly, like, it just wasn't enough for him to make ends meet long term. And so he was making a small amount, but it was stable, but it was small. And for him, I think we brought him in, and from day one, we tripled his income. And so he saw that firsthand, like, this is some of the very first people. And I know this guy's family. I know him personally. And I'm hearing from him saying, obviously I have the financial stability now. And that's such a burden, removed, and such a relief for my family. But what it unlocks me to be able to do, what it enables me to be able to do, is now spend more time with my family and be a more present parent and spouse at home. It allows me to develop my relationship with God further. It allows me to serve in my church calling, to a better capacity. It allows me to think for the future, to save and to plan for, my career path, or to think about going back to school and getting another degree. Like, it just unlocked all these pieces that were all of those things I just mentioned, except for the money part, were things that we can take with us into the next life. And I think that was like the aha moment for me, as John mentioned, of like someone I knew personally and saw that, of like everything important about this individual's life and in the grand scheme of things, the eternal perspective was bettered and improved because this person now had this, stable income that allowed him to, like I mentioned earlier, like really serve and be a disciple of Jesus Christ and live the gospel of Jesus Christ to more full extent, which was just this powerful thing to witness and observe firsthand. And I think when we saw those things, it was just like, this is it. Like, we are all in on this. We're going to do whatever it takes to grow this and to, figure this out. And that was now 4 years ago that we started, and we've grown it to a point where we have just under 4,000 people in over 50 countries around the world that are active on our payroll, people that we employ that are majority church members in the last couple of years, which has been very special.
Not just the 2 or 3 that started with 4,000 people.
Yeah.
So how do you,
Oh my goodness.
I know word of mouth is really big, because we've read some of the profiles of people that you've helped. And a lot of times they have found out from someone else that what you do. And so how do you vet the people? If you have so many that are so needy, how do you choose? How do you do that?
We have to, as a business, we have to deliver to these companies people that will do a great job. And I think we've done these companies are very happy. So we go through a fairly rigorous vetting process to make sure that they're capable of doing the jobs. And in terms of like there's all these people that want the jobs, how do we make those decisions? And the reality is it's what we're trying to do is grow our business in a way where we don't have to, anybody that's qualified can get a job. And frankly, we're not there today. And we just kind of go through chronologically to some degree and looking for who fits. But we want to get to the point one day where we've grown enough that we have jobs for anybody that's capable of delivering at the quality we need. And we're not there yet.
Well, I would not put that past you at all.
Pathways has been such a miracle. But as soon as Pathways is over, the next link to get into the workforce, to use their education, to use their talents, and to make it translate into something that really, and you're right at that spot to help them make that transition. That is miraculous. Wow.
Yeah. Do you have some stories that you'd like to share?
Some others?
Yeah, some more stories of those that you've helped, because I think especially like single moms, when they're willing and they just need, like Scott said, this hand up, need this help. So what else have you heard back from your clients?
Yeah, there's literally hundreds of
this could take a while.
Share, and there's
do we have 10 hours or no?
There's a lot of these. So the hard part is like narrowing it down. But one thing that's cool is the church education system put out a magazine with the latest BYU alumni magazine here. I think this month in March or last month in February. Within the last month, there's a special edition church education magazine that identifies stories from each of the church schools. And the story from BYU Pathway, and there's a story from Ensign College in that magazine that talk about two amazing people that we work with. One is Kathy, which maybe John, you can share a little bit about her story. She's shared spotlighted in the BYU Pathway portion of that magazine. And there's another gentleman that we had a chance to meet, Amos, in Nigeria, who also works with us, that I'll talk about after. Maybe we can share those two stories.
Please.
Way for at least our listeners here in the States can go read that physical version. And I'm sure there's an online version where you can really read in depth some of their stories.
And the only thing I'll say before I dive into Kathy is just, you commented on BYU Pathway, and we truly think it's an inspired program that we would not be able to do what we're doing without them. And they're working in hand with us, as well as doing a lot of things on their own to solve this problem of helping people with jobs. And it's an amazing program with amazing people working in it. Kathy, so we interviewed her. This is a long time ago now. It's like 3 or 4, almost probably 3 years ago at this point, and she applied, and we were like, hey, we've got these kind of entry level jobs, and it became very clear that she was not an entry level person. And so we kind of talked, and we said, oh, is there a spot for her internal to our team where she can come help us? And she had just graduated from BYU Idaho online. I think she was in the very first cohort of BYU Idaho graduates in El Salvador. And her patriarchal blessing, she shares in the story, and she shared with us at the time, actually, said, as you get educated, like, opportunities will come. And so, like, I think we interviewed her a week after she graduated, and we gave her an offer. And frankly, she was in a great role already. And so we brought her in a very similar salary and things like that, to what she was at the time. But at this point, I think she's tripled her income at this point. And she has been a huge part of us getting, that 4,000 number that Eric mentioned, she can attribute a huge percent of that to her and her great work. And in that time that we've worked together, she's been a Relief Society president. I think at the same exact time, her husband was the Elders Quorum president. And so they were a true power couple. They were able to have their first daughter, Emma, which is exciting, and that's kind of recent. And they're both still working with us and doing an amazing job. So Eric can talk about Amos.
Yeah, and I think through both these stories, what you'll see is, like, the common thread is our goal is to help these people, find the ability to thrive and, like, level the playing field where they can, again, use their skill set, use their education, use their talents to thrive professionally, but then we'll also translate over into those important things that John just mentioned. So Amos is an amazing individual in Nigeria, as I mentioned, that John and I had the privilege to meet last year when we were there, about a year ago this time. And he had already been working for us, I think, for maybe 6 months by the time we met him. But it was so cool to hear his story in person and then, again, articulated in this magazine that the church put out. But he's, in his early 30s, and he's a stake president, which obviously, like, that doesn't happen here in Utah or in the US very often. But he has had to rise to the occasion for that, responsibility and that calling in his area. And it was so cool to hear him talk about how his job enabled him to be a better stake president and enabled him to think less about putting food on the table and think less about, his physical needs, but be able to focus on the needs of his stake. And what's so cool about his journey is he's also helped, I want to say at this point, dozens of people in his city and in his stake also break into online jobs and online careers and have this same, journey and story. And so it's this little microcosm of this amazing stake in Nigeria. It's a smaller town in Nigeria, but has all of these saints working online jobs where they can then thrive and grow their stake and grow their wards and grow righteous families, which is really, really, again, like the why behind what we're trying to do. And so he's an amazing individual who, like Kathy, has now grown exponentially in his salary, but also has helped others to do the same. And I think that's what's so powerful about him. Selfless and looking forward, and just is a very special guy. And I think for us, like, these individuals are who we want the spotlight shined on. Like, these individuals are the true heroes. You use that word, Scott, to start, but these are the people that are the true heroes for us, that are, maybe the unsung heroes or the hidden heroes that are living righteous lives, raising righteous families. And those are the things that are most important.
Do you mind if I share one more quickly?
Please.
There's one that came to mind that I think is worth, there's different people that kind of share different profiles. And one that comes to mind is a man named Samuel that I think was earning about $60 a month and was serving as a branch president in
Cameroon.
I believe Cameroon, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And was a young branch president, and he started working for us, and he kind of went up to a little bit more than that, and then he kept on going up, and eventually he was making, like, which to us is still doesn't sound like a lot, but he was making 10 times more than he was making, right? And was able to kind of move that way. And what was really special for us is that he was able to save up money and travel to be sealed and to kind of have that special moment with his wife. And of course, like, here in the US, thinking about a branch president or a bishop that can't even be sealed is a kind of a different thing. And so it was really special to have him be able to do that. And so this isn't just like hey, they can buy a car, or and it's truly like these remote jobs are a sign of God's love for people that are and him pouring out blessings to allow them to make covenants, to keep covenants, and to help other people to do the same.
Oh, that's
You know
beautiful.
what hits me is I think all these people that are experiencing this bring a whole element of hope into their area to say, when we look around, there's no real possibility to progress or find greater capacity. But suddenly seeing that there's hope to do something so much more than they've ever thought would be possible. I can't imagine what it's like for a father to suddenly realize that he can care for his family and they can serve the Lord. And 4,000 of them.
And like you said, the social impact, just how it spreads. And I just think that is so beautiful. Do you want to tell us how, just talk about your website a little. And, I don't know if there's things that people can actually do to support your company, but it's just
and then
so
anything
beautiful.
you want to share in closing.
Yeah.
Would be great.
Let's talk about it on twofold. I think if there's any folks here in the United States that are watching, if you have a business or if you work with businesses, the best thing you can do to help is reach out to us on our website. It's hirebloom.com. I'm sure you guys can attach it maybe in the meeting notes or something here.
Yeah, we did.
hirebloom.com. And that's probably the best way you can help is like you can contact us on that website to work with church members, pathway students in your business or in businesses that jobs that can be done in a remote capacity. And I think the flip side to that for people that are watching or listening overseas, around the world, I should say, the best thing you can do is get educated, enroll in BYU Pathway, enroll in English Connect, and learn those skill sets. That's a starting point for you there. And there's just such a plethora of other skill set or other training courses or other things online where we live in such a powerful day and age. I think that's the other piece is like, John mentioned this at the beginning, but we love working with so many people around the world. It's hard for us that we can't work with all of them. That's where we want to get to. But for those that are starting out, that would be my advice and counsel is put in the time and effort and energy to utilize the resources like BYU Pathway and other online, training courses and programs to continue to improve your professional English, your computer literacy, your skill sets that translate over into the workplace.
Eric covered that really nicely. The only thing I'd add is just we feel so strongly that God cares about this, right? Is he wants to bless the Samuels and the Kathy and the Amoses, as well as all the people. People are struggling all over the world with different things, and God wants to help. And if anybody listening to this feels inspired to help, there's lots of ways to contribute. And Pathway's doing a lot of things, and there's people you can reach out to there. And we're happy to connect anybody who's interested in seeing how they can help. We're happy to talk to.
You are true disciples of Christ. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all of that. And please, to our viewers, share this. Please share this on social media and let's get the word out more about what these two wonderful men are doing for so many.
And I think it's such an inspiring example, again, not only what you've done, but the capacity for each of us within our own skill set to be able to reach out and help someone have a hand up and do all we can to help others and to see the amazing reward that comes because we are so blessed and we need to help people, especially receive the gospel, but receive the ability to be able to live the gospel fully. Amazing. Hey, we love you too. You're
Thank you
amazing
so
example.
much for being with us today.
And thanks everybody for being with us.
With you. Thanks for having us.